Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Finance and Accounting Show. Now, today we have a great guest on because sometimes the most important things that you can learn about working in the business of accounting and finance is probably going to come from a person who isn't an accountant. So today I'm excited to have, a great guest on. We're going to dive into some great things. Plus, he is probably the only one that does a daily accounting podcast. And we're going to talk about that on today's show. So stay tuned for the episode. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest. Martin, welcome to the show.
Terrell, thank you very much for letting me be on it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love the opening there. That was a great opening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have to give all the credit to my wife on that one. She was the brains for that idea.
That's kind of true of everything, isn't it? We kind of give our wife credit for just about anything that's good in life.
Absolutely. I always tell people especially when it comes down to stuff like this, if you see some content that wasn't that good, just know I did it by myself.
That's right. If there's anything you ever like about me, I am not responsible for it. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm very interested in talking about, your firm and talking about, the ways that, you're helping accountants and working in the accounting profession. And I am a huge believer, after doing this for years, of that, some of the greatest insight is going to come from someone who isn't deep into the technical side of accounting. But before we jump into those details, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I can indeed, Terrell, and thank you for that. So, dear audience, my name is Martin Bisset. I'm a 25-year veteran of the accounting profession. I am not an accountant. I never have been, and I'm never going to be as well. Just yesterday, a French organization who came across me for the first time said, you're kind of like a celebrity for accountants, aren't you? And I'm like, is there anything more depressing than that at all? I thought, who leaves school thinking, I'm going to be a celebrity for accountants? That's what I'm going to do with my life. So yeah, it came across by accident. So here's what the audience needs to know. I am the son of a business owner who did not get the help he needed in financial literacy from a financial leader, from an advisor, from an accountant. When his business grew beyond his level of competency, it started to spiral out of control. He needed the steadying hand of a professional who knew forecasting, who knew budgeting, who knew the numbers, and it wasn't there for him. In that time, in that sort of a decade of history, it wasn't there as standard. Now, I am a business owner, who has experienced the same kind of challenges as my father did. So I may be pretty good at what I do, but not necessarily fantastic at running a business doing what I do. And I needed that support. And whereas my father didn't get it and the business crashed and burned, and many things crashed and burned with it, by the way, I did get the support. I did get a CPA in my life who said, whoa, if you carry on as you are, here's what's going to happen. And that's no good. That's just course correct right now. And I got put straight by somebody who had my best interests at heart. So Terrell, I am the direct recipient of what is for me the most noble iteration of accounting, the most noble manifestation of accounting. That where the skill set is used to take a business owner away from surviving, away from just keeping about the wolves from the door, and through to thriving and getting them towards their own personal and professional aspirations. And I know what it is to be with that, and I know what it is to be without that. And being with that's a lot better. So that's why I try and work with other accountants to do the exact same thing.
Awesome. Something you bring up that I think is some people say, well, I don't think it's a debate. I've talked to other accountants and, this debate of how proactive should your accountant be? Now, I'm of the settled opinion of, if they're just looking at hindsight of what's happened in the past, they're not as useful. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, there is a great saying, I think, by the rock star David Lee Roth, that the only thing a rear view mirror is good for is to see how good you look while you're getting to wherever it is you're going. And when we're talking about compliance work, that's historical recording. That's what that is. So I think for a business owner perspective, which is the one I bring to this show, is that how much do we value a record of things that are in the past? Which is what a set of accounts and a tax return kind of is. Here's what's too late to change. And I have to pay for this? Whereas somebody who comes to me and says, look, Martin, here's the way forward. Here's what we could win. Here's what we could achieve. Here's the mountain we could climb. Want to go? Yeah. I'll help you climb, but you can get to the top. I can? Sure. And that sort of feeling when somebody else believes in your business, perhaps more than you do in your worst moments, that's someone who has the skill set technically to say, let's take a look at where you're going to be in 9 months if we carry on as we are right now. Let's see what we're going to change that. For someone who can take away the fear, take away the insecurity, ignite the ambition, make me sleep well at night. Yeah, I'm paying for that, big time. So I think the more proactive the advisor, and we're talking CPA here, the more proactive they are, the higher my perception is of what they deliver for my business. Therefore, the lower my resistance is to their fees. I'm prepared to pay more if they're going to take me further.
That's a very interesting way. I think that's a very impactful way to look at it, especially for the audience, because, one of the things that I find for a lot of CPAs is when they start a firm and they start some type of advisory, or even if they go the route of compliance, is that what they struggle with is really figuring out the business side of it. And I think one of those things is really understanding what is it that the customer values, like right. Being able to see things from the customer's perspective. So, with having a daily accounting show, I'm sure you interact with a lot of accountants. And from your perspective of not being an accountant, how well do you think accountants are able to get out of their own perspective and see things from the business owner's perspective?
Oh, if that was out of 10, where 10 is high, they're easily hitting 0 or 1. No problem at all. The thing is, Sarah, you've got to look at the training, first of all, okay? No one goes into a career in accounting who could have made it in sales and marketing, first of all, okay? So we're not dealing with naturally outward thinking people. We're dealing with people who want to help other people, but need a process in order to do that. So the training of a CPA is such that they are trained to justify their life in 6-minute increments in many cases, and they are trained to play an exact science, and to tidy up the past. So that's not a commercial mindset. That's not an entrepreneurial mindset. So when you have that training and you go into a firm that puts you into a cubicle and tells you to do exactly that for the next 30 years of your life, in the hope that one day you may make partner, then you can't expect an automatic behavioral change for some CPA to sit there and go, you know what? I wonder how my client feels. I wonder what they're going through right now. It's not a natural thing. And that's why I exist, professionally speaking, because I like to bring that sort of realization to the profession to say, guys, you're worth so much more than you're doing. You have so much more about you in terms of your abilities, your skill set. You can create so much more impact if we can just get you out of this cubicle and get you over there into the client's boardroom. So it's an awakening, I guess, Tyler. I would say it's an awakening. I don't think accountants, based on their training, not their fault, it's the way in which they're prepared for their career. I don't think they come in thinking of commercial issues. I don't think they come in, having been used to a salary and gross recurring fees in a practice, which are very, very safe, very secure, very solid, to then think about what it takes to have to hunt and kill out in sales land every month just to make payroll, just to pay the mortgage. I don't think they feel that kind of pain. So we can't expect them to automatically empathize with it. That takes a little bit of, like I say, awakening.
And I think for even when I think about from the public accounting perspective of people who go into working for a big practice, one of the things that I've been interested or it has been interesting to see is talking to some people who are like either new partners or they're kind of on that partner track. And one of the big hurdles that I've seen a lot of people face is that going from being a person who is regarded because of your technical knowledge to once you become a partner, it's almost like you're no longer an accountant. You're running the business of the firm.
Yes. Yes.
And so many of them seem to struggle with that.
Exactly that. I had the honor, and it really was an honor, of running a next generation leadership program for the Pennsylvania Institute of Certified Public Accountants from 2014 through to about 2018, I think it was. And these were for those who had just made partner, so they were at junior partner status, or as you would say, they were on the partner track, senior manager or partner designate. And it's exactly as you described it. So they have developed a level of technical competence which is strong. They have shown leadership capabilities. They've shown that they are reliable, trustworthy, high integrity. But then there comes that switch where, as you say, now you're a business owner. Now you have to think of 8 or 9 different issues before 9 a.m. And that's not saying, and so many were coming into it thinking that making partner was the end of the learning curve in their career. And they were finding out it's just the start of the learning curve. And now they've got to take on this whole new skill set, which is alien to them. Mm-hmm. So it is a big, big challenge. And I go back to my previous answer. It all stems back to the training. If the training made you go into business case studies and develop business mindsets and commercial mindsets, and when the practice becomes yours, here's what it's going to feel like, here's what it's going to look like, here are the decisions you'll have to make at board level, then we would have a very different type of graduate to the one we get.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that, because I think I told someone, I said, I love my, the universities that trained me, that taught me the fundamentals of, accounting. And I was like, it was great. But as I moved up in my career and I started moving into more leadership roles, what I realized is I was like, man, my technical accounting upbringing, studying for the CPA exam, like we talked about business and like the economics of business, but we really didn't spend that much time on it, to where it was a whole new world of learning. Like, okay, all right, working with the sales team, trying to figure out like how are we going to increase our market share? Right. Like what metrics are we going to monitor? Like how do we know we're on the right path? And, one of the things that I'm interested in is from your perspective of working with different, accounting professionals, are you in some instances seeing any, let's say, postgraduate or post-school kind of training or continuing education programs that are helping people start to make that shift for accountants?
Yes, I am, but it's the exception rather than the rule. Gotcha. So here's a case in point. I was consulting with what is now a UK top 10 firm. Okay, but back then they weren't. Back then they were still independent. They hadn't bought into the big juggernauts that they've now bought into. And I was brought in to get the partners, the already established partners, working on winning new business proactively, as opposed to just taking referral work in the door as it comes in, because there's nothing to be done there. You're an order taker, but to actually proactively win new work, because there wasn't a sales team in that firm. And, I was coming in at a certain level that I thought was appropriate, and I was wrong. I had to go more basic. And then I find I had to go more basic, and we were talking about the first meeting objectives with a prospective client, and wherever I started, I found a starting position, they would go, yeah, but what comes before that? What comes before that? And so just being flippant, as I tend to be, I said, and I'll mention the name of the person because they're retired now. I said, well, Peter, perhaps we could start with eye contact and a good firm handshake. And I was joking when I said that, okay? To be clear, audience, I was joking when I said that. And do you know what his response was? He went, eye contact and good for me. Is there a checklist for that? Could I get a checklist for that? I was like, no, you can't have a checklist for that. And when I thought, is it April Fool's Day? So when you're at that level, when genuinely, with no irony, with no sense of self-deprecation, that's genuinely going, oh, eye contact. When that's a revelation, wow, do we have a long way to go? And so that's sometimes where you're starting from. So the training programs that get a greater sense of commerciality in the partners, they're absolutely critical, because so many professionals, technical professionals, CPAs, are looking for a process for everything, looking for a system. So what I ended up doing, I ended up checking the third finger on left hand. I said, guys, are you married? Yeah, you are. So you have a significant other, right? You have a spouse or a partner or whatever, a wife or a husband. Yeah. I said, when you were going through your courtship, when you were dating, did you go up to the object of your dreams and go, first step is that we will now be going out for dinner together. We shall then be eating a meal in step 2. In step 3, you will laugh at my jokes. In step 4, I will invite you back for coffee. In step 5, of course you weren't. You were being human with a human. You were learning about a person. You were learning to interact. And guess what? That's your life as a partner now. It's not about the work so much anymore. It's far more about humans, people, business owners, your team, your fellow partners, your investors if you have them, your introducers, all of the ecosystem that surrounds your practice. Learn to love them. Learn to understand what they need. Learn to pay things forward. And the firm will be fine. So that's a really long answer to it. I apologize. That's a really long answer to your question. I don't see programs regularly, no. I do see some. I do see pathways to partner mapped out. And it's wonderful when you have that. An individual can see that they can make it all the way, and there are no glass ceilings waiting for them because they're female, or there are no glass ceilings waiting for them because they're the wrong age. Some firms have that, but I would say to you that as an estimate, it's less than 5% of the market that has something like that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because, one of the things that I, have done on this show is talk to a lot of different accountants and just talked about their career path. And there have been a couple times where I've had partners on, and even, some of those partners, what they said is one of the things they struggled with was really, running the business side of things, of figuring that piece out. And one of them came out and said, what he was like, it was embarrassing to realize is that, what he really had to learn was how to be human again.
Right. How to be a human being. Yeah. And we laugh, but I hope the audience understands that we're not mocking here. We're trying to get everyone to be encouraged to say, come on, this isn't the biggest rocket science ever. There is a huge future for your career. There's a huge future for your firm. And for me, being biased, most critically, there's a huge future for your clients as well, if you'll just reach out to them.
Yeah.
And the magical words are hi, and then how are you doing? And then shut up and let's do what they've got to say. And take the conversation from there in whatever direction it goes. And this isn't on the clock, and we're not billing them for it. Just talk to them. Find out about their business. What are their roadblocks? Why aren't they further on now than they thought they were going to be? Well, why are they suddenly flying if they are flying in business? What is it they're trying to achieve? What is it they're short of to get there? Can you provide that? Because we just cross-sold if you did. We just upsold, if you can. We just got an extra work order if you can. And all it takes is that arm around the shoulder. But Terrell, so few firms do it.
Yeah, I can attest to that, because even I was telling my wife, even like in my firm, I was like, a lot of times I feel like what the client is actually paying me for is helping them feel comfortable about the next decisions, not even the technical side of accounting. Like I spend like, there's some clients that they hired me to build the financial model, and then they said, can we have like a weekly meeting to where we have a weekly meeting and we just talk through what are some of the major decisions that they're considering? And I provide some perspective. We probably want to consider this. Well, what about the margin on this? And talking through those things. And for them, it's just like, that's what they wanted to pay me for, to where I'm just like, oh, this is really helping people get comfortable navigating the road ahead, not so much, debits and credits, because they went out and they hired another bookkeeper that handles the debits and credits, but they pay me for those conversations.
I don't know if I can add anything to that. You're exactly on the money. For me, it's like a comfort blanket. I see a lot of accountants who assume that business owners possess the same knowledge that they do, which is an incorrect assumption. So they are amazed when the tax bill comes and the client hasn't got a bank account with that exact amount in it, ready to go, because I've been saving for my tax bill the whole time. It is not obvious, even to very successful people. A third of everything you make, it's not yours. It's the government's. Put it in a separate box, and then that doesn't become obvious to a business owner. And accountants seem to be surprised by this and didn't think to instruct the client because they thought it was a given, that's too basic. So just as I did that story a while ago about, eye contact, handshake, are you sure? Can we have a checklist? Because I thought it was too basic. Accountants fall into the same trap, and they don't advise clients because they assume clients are financially literate. And I assure you, most of us are not. We may be good at manufacturing. We may be good at IT. We may be good at some kind of retail business that we've got. Okay, we may be very good at doing those things, but the business of running a business, no, sir, we are not, and we need your help because we can get in a lot of trouble very quickly. And the other thing I find, Terrell, so maybe I can add something to this, is whenever I am in front of an accounting audience and I say, tell me your stories of the greatest support or the greatest outcome or result that you've ever been instrumental in achieving for your clients, the room is silent. Nobody wants to go first. So when I go, okay, you tell me, and I point out somebody particularly, and I put them on the spot so they have to answer, guess what? They've got a treasure chest of stories. They have stories which stretching back years of how they've helped people, and they have no problem in recalling them, but a lot of problem putting them on the website for the rest of us to see.
Wow. That's something that I was having a conversation with someone, and, it seems like people are very shy about pretty much, just telling the stories of like, hey, here's how we've helped. Here's how we've added value. I'm wondering, like, from your perspective and talking to so many accountants, any thoughts on why accountants, kind of shy away from, letting other people know, hey, here's how we help solve problems, or here's some of the value we've delivered.
I think it's because of it's two things. It's the innate personality trait and character trait of the sort of person who's attracted to a technical profession. They're not necessarily outgoing. They're not necessarily, ultra charismatic. So it doesn't occur to them to do that. I think that's the first thing. But they're not commercial, as we've already talked about. And as such, I think it was just 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago. I was speaking to a firm who talked about the fact that they had testimonials on their website. And I thought, wow, who cares? Because everybody's got a testimonial. Everybody's got somebody who likes them, even if it's just a mom. Everybody's got somebody who likes them. And from a client's perspective, we don't see a testimonial that reads, Martin is fantastic and does exactly what he says he's going to do, and I would not hesitate to recommend him. We don't look at that and we go, oh, hold me back. I can't wait to work with this firm. I'm convinced now. I was a skeptic before I read those 3 lines, but now I'm convinced. That's not what happens, because everybody's got testimonials. Tell me stories. Tell me about your interventions. Tell me how you were changed around somebody's trajectory as to where they were going in business. Tell me about how they couldn't have afforded the house without you. Tell me how they couldn't have afforded the new premises without you. Tell me how, and whatever the story is. Because when I get immersed in a story as a business owner, when I see myself in somebody else's story, oh, wait, that's me. Wait, I go through that. Wait, that's my problem. And I understand this is what you fix. This is what you solve. Well, I'm not thinking tax returns anymore. I'm not thinking books and records and year end anymore. I'm thinking future. And I'm thinking you're the guy to take me there. And now I want to talk to you. Now I can see the difference between you and my existing CPA. Now I'm prepared to consider the possibility of breaking the loyalty barrier that I've got over here to come over here. And that's what we need as business owners. We need to be educated. We are not educated. You do not educate us. The CPA profession does not educate us in how you can help us. What services you've got? Yeah, maybe. But we don't understand that. We want to know how you can help us. And that's what we need. So as a result, because the professionals, A, aren't that way inclined to do things like that, and B, Terrell, because they've got recurring fees, don't necessarily have to either. They have a lifestyle, just by doing recurring work. No need to go out into the big wide world necessarily, unless they really want to grow. So as such, there is a perfect storm created by which the accountant does nothing. And that's the issue. We have inertia set in through gross recurring fees. We have apathy set in. I'd rather look at the spreadsheet than talk to a human, and we, the business owners, are left uneducated, unenlightened, and still struggling.
Wow. Unfortunately, that is the reality for a lot of accounting firms. But with the work that you're doing, you're helping accountants break out of that, helping accountants become that, top 5% performers in the market and in the industry. So if people are interested in working with you, finding out more about your company and your organization, where's the best place for them to find you guys online?
There's three choices straight away. Find me on LinkedIn if we just connect one-to-one. If you want to see the work of the overall organization, then it's bissettgroup.com. That's BISSETT group.com. There we are, right on screen. And if it's me personally and the work that I get involved in, then it's simply martinbisset.com. But there you'll get, as you can see on screen, my letter to the profession. You'll see what my belief system is. You'll see if you connect with that at all. And you'll see a little video about my call to action, about what I would love accountants to be as standard, how I'd love them to think as standard, and how I'd love them to act as standard. And there's a true story in there as well.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, a couple of things before we wrap up. First one is your daily podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what can people expect from that daily podcast?
Yeah, we thought it would be weird to have two non-accountants run an accounting show. I thought, let's try that. Let's see how that goes. So we do a daily show that looks at the commercial aspects, news and analysis on a Monday. We do expert interviews. We do interviews with leadership. We do a series called Here's What Works, where we take stories from the accounting, my consulting history, and we tell stories about what works for firms in that. We do parts on pricing, and just in a little short sort of, 5, 10, 15-minute episodes, so you can listen to it while walking the dog or at the gym or whatever it is you need to do. So it doesn't take too long. It's called the Accounting Influencers Podcast. It comes out every day. And Terrell, we'd love to have you on it.
Absolutely. I'd love to join. So we'll definitely have to set that up.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, let's do that after this.
Awesome. Well, one final question that I always love asking every guest. Well, actually, before I get to that, I also saw on LinkedIn that you recently had a book release. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Oh, okay. So I have written 11 books for accountants. One of them was even half decent and okay. The other 10, not so much. But this one is the first book that isn't for accountants. So the first children's book that I've ever written, but it has a financial angle to it. It's called The Climb. No, it's got nothing to do with Miley Cyrus. I wasn't aware of that until it actually came out and we had the title ready. Available wherever you buy books, and is a simple story for children in the first instance, but for the parents in the second instance, about deciding what you stand for as a character and as a human. And we follow a character called James and his climb to the top of the hill to buy the ultimate toy. But unfortunately, something happens along the way.
Nice. I love it. Well, now the final question I love asking every guest that comes on is, when you think about where you've been in your journey and where you are now, what's two pieces of advice that you would give to other accountants and finance professionals? And it can be something you've already shared that you just want to reiterate, or it can be two new things.
Okay, let's go with one of each. So one thing that I've already shared is I would ask everybody, listening or watching this to never, ever assume that business owners know how to run businesses. We pretty much all need your help. You can pretty much add value to every single one of us, even if it's just polishing what we've already got in place and making it just 10% better. Please don't assume that we know how to budget, forecast, interpret management reports, calculate gross profitability, anything like that. Please don't assume that. Come and ask us if we've got that in place, because we need you. We need that support. So I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, is that we assume competence within business owners, and it's not necessarily there. The second thing that I think I've learned is that accountants perennially undervalue the power and impact that they have in business owners' lives. I think we see that in pricing issues all the time. But I think, I have yet to meet an accountant that says, I am a genius. I am incredibly talented at helping businesses. You should see how far I can take a business. I don't generally get that. I come across humble, extremely hardworking, high integrity individuals who do not realize their own powers. And I would love it. I would absolutely love the profession to wake up to the reality of their own ability to do good, because you do well when you do what's right.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Martin, thank you so much for being an amazing guest on the show today. Pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Terrell.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Finance and Accounting Show. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new episode.